I stood in the rain that night, suitcase in hand, watching the door slam shut behind me. My daughter-in-law's voice still hung in the air. "Out, you useless old bat. We're selling this house anyway." I said nothing about the $81 million, nothing about the hidden condition in his will. 3 days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. 48 missed calls. If you've ever been invisible until someone needed something, you'll understand what happened next. Stay with me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. But let me back up to that morning, the morning of the funeral. I sat in the kitchen, making coffee. Robert's black suit jacket hung over the chair where he always sat. 40 years of marriage. He was a marine engineer, quiet man who kept his promises. Built ships for 35 years, came home every night smelling like salt and diesel. I touched my wedding ring, still warm from washing the breakfast dishes. Robert used to say, "This house isn't just wood and walls, Margaret, it's a contract." I never understood what he meant, not then. My son David arrived around 9, 38 years old, works in finance downtown. He had his father's eyes but not his spine. Behind him came Jessica, 34, nails done perfect, eyes already measuring every corner of the room like she was calculating square footage. She sat on the sofa, our sofa, the one Robert and I picked out 20 years ago after his first big promotion. She sat there like she owned it. Phone out, taking pictures of the living room, the mantel, the windows. David avoided looking at me. "Mom, you okay?" His voice barely carried across the room. I was not okay. My husband was dead. But I nodded. The funeral was small. Robert didn't like crowds. I stood beside his casket, held his hand one last time. It was cold. Hands that built ships, that built this house, that held mine for 4 decades. I saw Jessica whispering to David, both of them glancing at me, then at the house, then at each other. Our lawyer, Mr. Thompson, came through the receiving line, shook my hand. "Mrs. Hayes, whenever you're ready." Jessica's eyes tracked him, tracked me, tracked every movement. People brought casseroles, said kind things, left. By 6 in the evening, the house was quiet. Just me, David, and Jessica. I washed dishes in the sink, same sink I'd washed dishes in for 40 years. The rhythm of its soap, rinse, dry, kept me steady. Jessica opened the refrigerator without asking. I saw David stare at the floor. And I knew. Before the last guest had even driven away, before the sun set on the day we buried my husband, I knew this wasn't just grief I was facing. I saw Jessica's eyes on the lawyer, on me, on this house. And I knew before the last guest left that this wasn't just grief I was facing. Evening came. The guests left. David and Jessica stayed. I cleaned the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, same routine I'd done for 40 years. Plate, cup, fork, rinse, load, close. The sound of water running kept my hands busy while my mind tried to catch up with the fact that Robert was gone. Jessica opened the refrigerator, took out leftovers someone had brought. Didn't ask. "So, Mom," she leaned against the counter. "What's the plan? You can't stay in this big house alone." I placed a dish in the rack. "This is my home, Jessica." She laughed, not a real laugh, the kind you make when you're pretending something is funny but really you're just uncomfortable with silence. "Well, it's David's inheritance now, technically." I looked at my son. David stared at the floor. I picked up the kitchen towel, folded it, very slowly, into a perfect square. The way Robert taught me when I was young and angry about something. "Slow down, Margaret," he'd say. "Think first." So I folded, and I thought. "David," I said, "is this what you want?" He looked up, his father's eyes, but not his father's strength. "Mom, it's practical. The house is too big. We can help you find somewhere." Jessica cut him off. "Help? David, let's be honest. Your mom can't manage this place, and we have plans." Plans. The word sat there like a stone. I kept folding the towel, unfolding, folding again. "Plans," I repeated. Jessica pulled brochures from her purse. Glossy ones, full color, senior living communities, assisted living, memory care. She'd researched, before the funeral, before Robert was even cold. She spread them across the counter like she was showing me vacation destinations. This one has a great activity program, and this one is only 20 minutes from us. You'd have help, meals, everything. I looked at the brochures, looked at the pictures of smiling old people playing cards, doing watercolor paintings, sitting in wheelchairs in sunny rooms. Then I looked at the wall, at our wedding photo, Robert and me, 40 years ago, standing on the porch of this house, his hand holding mine, both of us young and stupid and in love. Robert's voice in my head, "When the time comes, trust Thompson. Trust the contract." I didn't understand then, but I was starting to. "Jessica," I said, "how long have you been planning this?" Her face changed, just for a second. Then she smiled. "Planning what? We're just trying to help. These brochures are dated 3 weeks ago." She blinked. David looked at her. "I was planning ahead," she said, being practical. Robert was still alive 3 weeks ago. The kitchen got very quiet. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the drip of the faucet I kept meaning to fix. Jessica's smile disappeared. "Look, Margaret, your husband is dead. This house is too much for you. David is the heir. We need to make decisions." "We?" I asked. "David and I. We're a family unit." "And what am I?" She didn't answer that. I turned to my son. "David, look at me." He did, barely. "Is this what your father would have wanted?" His jaw tightened. "Dad's gone, Mom." "I know. I buried him today. We're just trying to do what's best." "For who?" He didn't answer. Jessica picked up the brochures, stacked them, tapped them against the counter to line up the edges. "We're putting this house on the market next week," she said. "You can stay at our place tonight. Then we'll move you into one of these facilities. It'll be better for everyone." Better for everyone. I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman my son married 5 years ago. The woman who smiled at our Thanksgiving table, who called me Mom, who promised to take care of David the way I had. And I saw it. Clear as day. She didn't see a mother-in-law. She saw an obstacle. She didn't see a home. She saw a sale price. "This is still my home," I said quietly. Jessica's voice went cold, sharp. "Out, you useless old bat. We're selling this house anyway." David flinched, but he didn't speak. I stood there, kitchen towel in my hands, wedding ring on my finger, 40 years of memories in every corner of this room. And I made a choice. I walked upstairs, packed one suitcase, took my medications, my documents, the photo album from my nightstand. I stood in the bedroom doorway, the room Robert and I painted blue the day we moved in, the room where we raised our son, where we grew old together. I touched the wall. "They have no idea what they just did," I whispered. Then I walked downstairs, past David, who couldn't look at me, past Jessica, who watched me with something like satisfaction. I opened the front door. It was raining. I walked out anyway. I walked upstairs, packed one suitcase, and as I closed the bedroom door behind me for what I thought might be the last time, I touched the wall Robert and I had painted blue the day we moved in. They had no idea what they'd just done. I called a car service, stood outside in the rain with my suitcase. The driver asked, "Bad night?" "Just the beginning of a new one," I said. He drove me to a small hotel near the harbor, the Mariner's Inn, the same place Robert and I stayed when we first got married, when we had nothing but each other and a dream about a blue house. I sat on the bed, looked at my suitcase. Everything I owned now fit in one bag. I didn't cry, didn't call anyone, didn't collapse. I just sat there, clear-headed, awake. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Thompson's number. But I didn't call. Not yet. I wasn't angry. I was awake. And for the first time in 24 hours, I let myself remember everything Robert told me 3 months ago. 3 months before Robert died, we sat in Thompson's office. Downtown, 15th floor, windows overlooking the harbor where Robert spent 35 years building ships. Robert held my hand. His grip was weak. The cancer was already taking him, though he wouldn't admit it. "Margaret," he said, "I need you to listen carefully." Thompson slid a folder across his desk. I opened it. Numbers, legal terms, Pages and pages. $81 million, Thompson said. I looked up. What? Robert squeezed my hand. From the company, the patents, the investments I made over the years. 81 million? I couldn't process it. Robert, I thought we just had the house, the pension. I kept it quiet, he said. To protect us, to protect you. I stared at the numbers. $81 million. We'd lived in the same house for 40 years, drove the same car for 10. I clipped coupons. He brought lunch to work in a metal box. Why didn't you tell me? Because money changes people, Robert said, and I didn't want it to change us. Thompson cleared his throat. Mrs. Hayes, the inheritance is structured with specific conditions. What conditions? He pulled out another document. Highlighted sections. The house, he said. It's the trigger. I read. Legal language. But the meaning was clear. David would inherit the house. But I retained life estate. I could live there as long as I wanted. I had right of first refusal on any sale for 5 years. What does that mean? I asked. Thompson leaned forward. It means if David tries to sell the house without your written consent, or if he attempts to remove you from the property, the entire estate, excluding the house itself, reverts to a trust controlled solely by you. The entire 81 million? Yes? I looked at Robert. You're setting a trap. I'm setting a test, he said. For our son. For our son. He coughed, wiped his mouth, took a breath. Margaret, David is weak. I love him, but he's weak. And Jessica. He didn't finish, didn't have to. If they try to push you out, Robert said, let them. Then let Thompson explain consequence. Why not just give it all to me? Because I want Michael to learn. I want him to choose. He used David's middle name. The name we gave him after Robert's father. If he chooses you, he gets everything. If he chooses greed, he gets nothing. That's cruel. That's fair. Thompson closed the folder. Mrs. Hayes, you don't have to agree to this structure. We can revise. No, Robert said, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. She understands. Don't you, Margaret? I looked at my husband. Dying man. Good man. Man who built ships and a home and a life. You want him to see himself, I said. I want him to have the chance to be better. That was 3 months ago. Now, sitting in the hotel room, I picked up my phone. Called Thompson. He answered on the second ring. Mrs. Hayes, I've been expecting your call. They threw me out tonight. I know. David called a realtor 2 hours ago. My chest tightened. 2 hours? Before you even left the house, he was making appointments. I closed my eyes, saw David staring at the floor, his silence while Jessica screamed at me. This is exactly what Mr. Hayes anticipated, Thompson said. What happens now? Now we let them proceed. Let them sign contracts, list the property. The buyer's attorney will discover the lien during title search. There will be a mandatory meeting with all beneficiaries and the trustee. And that's when they'll find out. That's when everyone finds out. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, rain against the window. Mrs. Hayes, I have to ask, do you want to stop this now? You have the power to call David. Explain everything. Prevent the embarrassment. I thought about Jessica's brochures, dated 3 weeks ago. I thought about David's silence. I thought about Robert's hand in mine, dying but determined to teach one last lesson. No, I said. Let it proceed. Are you certain? My husband built this as a mirror. What David does in the next 72 hours will show him who he really is. Thompson was quiet for a moment. Your husband was a wise man, Mrs. Hayes. Yes, I said. He was. I hung up. And I waited. Thompson said something that made my chest tighten. Margaret, your husband built this as a mirror. What David does in the next 72 hours will show him who he really is. I hung up. And I waited. Day 2. I stayed in the hotel room. Walked down to the harbor in the morning. Same docks where Robert worked for 35 years. The smell of salt water and diesel. The sound of metal on metal. Men in hard hats moving cargo. A few of Robert's old colleagues saw me. Came over, shook my hand, said they were sorry. One of them, Frank Mitchell, asked, Margaret, the house. You keeping it? I smiled. Small smile. We'll see. He nodded like he understood, even though he didn't. I bought flowers from a street vendor. Yellow roses, Robert's favorite. Brought them back to the hotel room, put them in the plastic water pitcher, made it feel less temporary. Every Saturday for 40 years, Robert brought me yellow roses. My phone rang around 3 in the afternoon. David. I let it ring. Watched his name flash on the screen. Watched it go to voicemail. Listened to the message. Mom, where are you? Jessica said you'd call. We need to talk about the house. The realtor is coming tomorrow. Look, I know last night got heated, but we can work this out. Just call me back, please. His voice, tired, a little desperate, but not apologetic. I deleted the message. An hour later, Jessica texted. Margaret, stop being difficult. We're doing what's best for you. Then another text. You can't afford that house anyway. I didn't respond. I sat by the window, watched the ships come in, go out, steady rhythm, same as always. Robert used to say the sea doesn't rush, it just comes, every time. That evening, I texted Thompson. Let it proceed. He replied immediately. Understood. Meeting is set for day 4, 2 in the afternoon. Prepare yourself. Prepare myself. I looked at the yellow roses, thought about Robert dying in that office, still trying to teach David one last lesson. Thought about Jessica's brochures, her measuring eyes, her perfect nails on my refrigerator door. Thought about David, my son, the boy I raised, the man who stood silent while his wife screamed at his mother. I wasn't preparing for battle. I was preparing to let truth arrive. There's a difference. That night, I called the front desk, asked them to extend my stay for 3 more days. The clerk asked if everything was all right. Getting there, I said. I took a shower, long and hot, let the water run until the mirror fogged completely, until I couldn't see myself anymore. Then I wiped it clear. Looked at my reflection. 62 years old, gray hair, lines around my eyes, hands that had washed 40 years of dishes, raised a son, buried a husband, but steady, still steady. I climbed into bed, pulled the thin hotel blanket up to my chin, and I slept better than I had in months. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew Robert had built something that couldn't be cheated, a truth that would arrive whether they were ready or not. That night, I slept better than I had in months, not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew Robert had built something that couldn't be cheated, a truth that would arrive whether they were ready or not. Day 3, morning, 7:15. My phone rang. David. I didn't answer. 7:47. Jessica. I didn't answer. 8:03. David again. This time, I listened to the voicemail. His voice was different, tight, strained. Mom, please call back. There's a problem with the house title. The realtor found something. We need your signature. Mom, please, just call me. I set the phone down, made coffee in the little machine by the sink, drank it black, Robert's way. The phone kept ringing. By noon, 48 missed calls. Text messages stacking up. David. Mom, please. The buyer's attorney is asking questions. Jessica. Margaret, this is ridiculous. Call us now. A number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Hayes, this is Linda Chen from Harbor Realty. We need to clarify some property encumbrance issues. Please contact our office. Then Thompson. They've discovered the trust lien. Are you ready? I texted back one word. Yes. I sat by the window, watched the ships in the harbor, big cargo vessels moving slow through the water. Patient, inevitable. Robert's voice in my head again. The sea doesn't rush, Margaret. It just comes. Every time. My phone buzzed. David calling again. This time, I answered. Mom. Hello, David. Mom, where are you? What's going on? The title company says there's a lien on the house. They're saying you have life estate rights. They're saying we can't sell without your consent. What does that mean? It means exactly what it sounds like. Did Dad do this? Your father did a lot of things, David. Most of them to protect me. Protect you from what? from ending up in a nursing home 3 weeks after he died. Silence on the line. Mom, those brochures. Jessica was just being practical. I know, she told me. We can fix this. Just come to Thompson's office tomorrow. Sign the papers. We'll work something out. I'll be there tomorrow, I said. 2 o'clock. Thank you. Mom, thank you. We can. David. Yeah? Don't thank me yet. I hung up. Sent one text message. I'll meet you tomorrow, 2 p.m., Thompson's office. David replied immediately. What's going on? I typed, you'll understand soon. Then I turned my phone to silent. 48 missed calls in 6 hours. Desperation changes people faster than money ever could. I packed my small suitcase, set out clothes for tomorrow. The navy blue dress, the one Robert always said made me look strong. Tomorrow, they would learn what their father knew. That you can't sell what was never really yours to take. I turned my phone to silent. By tomorrow, they would know what Robert knew, that you can't sell what was never really yours to take. Day 4. Morning. I went to a salon. First time in 20 years I'd done that. Usually just trimmed my own hair in the bathroom mirror. The stylist asked what I wanted. Something that looks like I know who I am, I said. She smiled. Cut. Styled. Did my nails too. Simple. Clean. I bought the navy blue dress from a shop 2 blocks from the hotel, Robert's favorite color on me. Before heading to Thompson's office, I drove to the cemetery. Stood at Robert's grave, fresh dirt still settling, no headstone yet. I laid yellow roses on the ground. Thank you, I whispered, for teaching me how to be still, and when to move. 1:55. I walked into Thompson's office building. At 1:55 p.m., I walked into Thompson's office, and for the first time in 4 days, I saw my son's face. Thompson's office, 15th floor. Same room where Robert and I sat 3 months ago. Big wooden table, glass windows overlooking the harbor, ships moving slow in the distance. David and Jessica were already there. Jessica's makeup was perfect, but her eyes were red, tired. David stood when I walked in. Mom. Hello, David. He looked at me. Really looked. Saw the haircut, the dress. Something in his face changed. Jessica stayed seated, arms crossed. Margaret, what is this about? We've been here 30 minutes. Thompson stood behind his desk. We're waiting for one more person. The door opened. A man in his 50s walked in, gray suit, briefcase. The kind of man who'd spent his life reading contracts and finding loopholes. This is Mr. Harrison, Thompson said. He's the trustee of Mr. Hayes's estate. Jessica leaned forward. Trustee? What trustee? Harrison set his briefcase on the table, clicked it open, pulled out files, thick ones. Thompson gestured to the chairs. Please, everyone sit. I sat across from David. Our eyes met. He looked confused, scared. Jessica sat next to him, rigid, ready to fight. Thompson opened a folder. We're here to discuss the estate of Robert Hayes and the attempted sale of 447 Oleander Drive. Attempted? Jessica's voice went sharp. We're the inheritors. That's what we're here to clarify, Thompson said. David looked at me. Mom, did you know about this? I looked back at my son, said nothing. Thompson adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Hayes, before we begin, do you wish to proceed? Everyone turned to me. I thought about Robert's hand in mine 3 months ago, his weak grip, his strong voice. Yes, I said. Jessica threw her hands up. Proceed with what? Harrison opened his briefcase wider, pulled out more documents, thick stacks bound with clips. Mrs. Hayes, Thompson said, you have the legal right to stop this meeting, to call your son privately, to resolve this without disclosure. Do you wish to do that? David's face. Hopeful, desperate. I looked at my son, the boy I raised, the man who stood silent while his wife called me useless. No, I said. They need to see. Thompson slid a document across the table. Single page, numbers at the top. Jessica picked it up. Her hands shook as she read. David leaned over, read over her shoulder. His face went white. The room got very quiet, just the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic 15 floors below. Jessica set the paper down, slowly, like it might break. $81 million? She whispered. Thompson slid a document across the table. The first page had one line highlighted: total estate value, $81 million. Jessica's face went white. Part 8. C. Legal, moral shock. Word count, 633. Jessica stared at the number. 81 million? That's impossible. Harrison's voice was flat. Professional. Mr. Hayes was majority shareholder in Pacific Maritime Engineering. He also held 17 patents in ship propulsion systems. David looked up from the paper. Dad never said anything about. He was a private man, Harrison said. Thompson pulled out another document. The estate is divided as follows: the house and personal items to David Hayes, with residual estate to be distributed per conditions outlined in Section 7. Jessica exhaled, loud, relief washing over her face. So the house is ours. Not exactly, Thompson said. The room went cold. Thompson continued. The house is deeded to David with one condition. Margaret Hayes must retain life estate and right of first refusal for any sale within 5 years. Jessica leaned forward. What does that mean? It means she has to agree to any sale, Harrison said, and she has to be offered the right to buy it first. That's ridiculous. Jessica's voice got sharp. Hi, she can't afford. Thompson held up his hand. Which brings us to Section 7, subsection B. If the primary beneficiary attempts to sell the property without the life estate holder's written consent, or attempts to remove said holder from the property, the entire estate, excluding the house itself, reverts to a trust controlled solely by Margaret Hayes. Silence. Complete silence. David's mouth opened. No words came out. Jessica shook her head. Wait. You're saying if we sell the house, we lose everything? If you attempt to sell it without Margaret's written agreement, yes, Harrison said. The 81 million goes into a trust. Margaret becomes the sole trustee. David receives nothing. Jessica turned to me, her eyes wide, desperate. You knew this whole time. Yes, I said. First word I'd spoken since entering the room. David's voice came out broken. Mom, when we told you to leave, you forfeited everything your father built, I said. Not because of the law, because of your choice. Jessica stood, fast, chair scraped against the floor. This is blackmail. Thompson didn't blink. No, this is consequence. David put his head in his hands. Jessica paced. 3 steps to the window, 3 steps back, her heels clicking on the hardwood. There has to be a way around this. Some legal... There isn't, Harrison said. Mr. Hayes worked with 3 different attorneys to ensure the structure was airtight. Jessica turned to David. Say something. David looked at me. Just looked. His father's eyes, finally seeing. We threw her out, he whispered. The night of the funeral. We threw her out. We were doing what was practical, Jessica said. Practical? David's voice got louder. You had brochures, Jessica. Brochures dated before Dad even died. Jessica's face flushed. I was planning ahead. You were planning to get rid of my mother. Thompson cleared his throat. Mrs. Hayes, you still have options. You can choose to waive the conditions. Sign the house over. Release the estate to David, regardless of what's happened. That power remains yours. Everyone looked at me. David's face, hopeful, terrified. Jessica, calculating, already trying to figure out how to fix this. Harrison, neutral, just a man doing his job. Thompson, waiting. I thought about Robert's hand in mine. Let them choose, Margaret, then live with what they choose. I thought about standing in the rain, suitcase in hand, door slamming behind me. I thought about 48 missed calls. David's voice, desperate, only after he needed something. No, I said. David's face crumpled. Mom, your father left you a choice, I said. You made it. Now you live with it. Jessica grabbed her purse. I don't have to listen to this. Harrison's voice stopped her cold. Actually, Mrs. Hayes, it is. The loan you obtained was procured through fraudulent misrepresentation. We've already contacted the lending institution. They're preparing legal action. You'll be hearing from the district attorney's office within the week. Jessica grabbed her purse. I don't have to listen to this. Harrison's voice stopped her cold. Actually, you do, because you're about to hear what fraud charges look like. Part 9. A second layer revelation, proving power. Word count, 426. Jessica froze, hand on her purse, face going from red to pale. Fraud? Her voice came out small. Thompson opened another file, thicker than the first. There's more. He pulled out documents, bank statements, loan applications, emails. 3 months ago, Mrs. Jessica Hayes opened a credit line using 447 Oleander Drive as projected collateral. David turned to her. What? Thompson slid a paper across the table. She borrowed $340,000 against the house, before your father passed away. The words hung there. David stared at the document, then at Jessica. You did what? Jessica's mouth opened, closed. That's not. We needed. The loan was approved based on your representation that you and David were sole owners of the property, Thompson said, which was false. Margaret held life estate. You knew that because you were present at the initial estate planning meeting 2 years ago. I remembered that meeting. Jessica, sitting next to David, smiling, taking notes, asking questions about inheritance tax. She knew. Even then, she knew. Harrison pulled out more papers, stapled packets, highlighted sections. We also have records of you touring assisted living facilities 2 weeks before Mr. Hayes's death. Those brochures, glossy, full color, dated 3 weeks ago. David stood up. Fast. Chair fell backward. You were planning this while he was dying? Michael, it was for us, for our future. David, he shouted. My name is David. Jessica flinched. You used my dying father's house as collateral for a loan? He was going to die anyway. I was being practical. The room went silent. Even Thompson looked shocked. David's hands were shaking. Get out. David. Get out of this office, now. Jessica looked at me, then at Thompson, then at Harrison. No one spoke. She grabbed her purse, walked to the door, stopped. This isn't over, she said. Harrison's voice was ice. Actually, Mrs. Hayes, it is. The loan you obtained was procured through fraudulent misrepresentation. We've already contacted the lending institution. They're preparing legal action. You'll be hearing from the district attorney's office within the week. Jessica's hand gripped the doorknob, white knuckles. Then she left, door clicking shut behind her. David stood there, staring at the closed door. Then he turned to me, tears running down his face. Mom, he whispered, did you know? About the loan? No, I said, but your father did. Thompson nodded. Mr. Hayes hired a private investigator in January. He knew about the credit line, the realtor consultations, all of it. I reached across the table, put my hand on David's. He didn't tell me to protect you from embarrassment. He hoped you'd wake up. Thompson nodded. Mr. Hayes hired a private investigator in January. He knew about the credit line, the realtor consultations, all of it. I reached across the table. Put my hand on David's. He didn't tell me to protect you from embarrassment. He hoped you'd wake up. Part 9. B. Biggest climax. Full truth. Word count, 1,085. David sat back down, slow, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. Thompson gave him a moment, then pulled out an envelope. Plain white, my name written on the front in Robert's handwriting. My chest tightened. Mr. Hayes left this letter, Thompson said, with instructions to read it only if this meeting occurred, only if David attempted to sell the house without your consent. He handed it to me. I held it, felt the weight of it, Robert's last words. Would you like to read it privately? Thompson asked. I looked at David, his face wet with tears, broken. No, I said, he needs to hear this. I opened the envelope, unfolded the letter, Robert's handwriting, shaky near the end, the cancer taking his strength but not his mind. I read aloud. David, if you're hearing this, I've failed as your father. David made a sound, small, hurt. I kept reading. Not because I didn't love you, but because I didn't teach you to be strong when it mattered. I gave you everything. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I should have let you struggle more. Let you build something yourself, instead of waiting to inherit mine. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat. Continued. Your mother is the strongest person I've ever known. She raised you while I was at sea. She built our home while I built ships. She made every dollar stretch, every meal from scratch. Every Christmas morning magic, even when we had nothing. I remembered those years. David was small, Robert gone for months, me working 2 jobs and still making sure there was a tree. Presents wrapped, love in every corner of that house. And if you've hurt her, I read, you've become someone I don't recognize. David put his head down on the table, shoulders shaking. But I believe in second chances. I have to. Because I wasn't always the man I died as. I made mistakes. Your mother forgave me. Taught me what real strength looks like. So here's your second chance, son. Choose her. Not the money. Not the house. Her. Choose to be the man I raised you to be, not the man fear and greed want you to become. I folded the letter, set it on the table between us. If you do, I continued, my voice barely holding, everything I built is yours. The money, the legacy, all of it, you and your mother together. But if you don't, she deserves it all anyway. She earned it. 40 years of earning it while I was out on the water living my dream. It was always hers. I just made it legal. The room was so quiet I could hear David breathing. I love you, son. Prove you're worthy of that love. Prove you're my boy. Prove you remember what honor means. Your move, Dad. I set the letter down. David reached for it, hands shaking. Read it again himself, slower, like maybe he'd missed something. He hadn't. Thompson and Harrison sat silent, professional. But I saw Thompson's jaw tighten. Even lawyers have hearts. David folded the letter, held it to his chest. Then he stood, walked around the table, knelt down beside my chair. 40 years ago, I knelt beside him when he was learning to tie his shoes, when he fell off his bike, when he was scared of the dark. Now he knelt beside me. Mom. His voice broke on the word. I'm so sorry. I was weak. I let myself. I put my hand on his head, the way I used to when he was small and needed comfort. I know, baby, I said. What do I have to do? To fix this? Please, tell me what to do. I looked at my son, really looked, saw the boy who used to run to me when he was scared, the teenager who brought me flowers on Mother's Day with money from his first job, the young man who stood beside me at his father's side when Robert taught him how to use tools. Tell me the truth, I said. Do you love her? He looked up at me, eyes red, face blotchy. I don't know who she is anymore, he whispered. Maybe I never did. Then you have your answer. David wiped his face. Mom, the house. It's yours. I don't want it. I don't want any of it. David. No. Listen, I want my mother. That's all I've ever really needed. And I almost lost you for money I didn't even know existed. He stood, helped me up from my chair. Then he hugged me. Really hugged me. The way he used to before he met Jessica, before he started measuring his life in possessions instead of people. I'm sorry, he said into my shoulder. I'm so sorry. I held my son, let him cry, let him break. Because sometimes we have to break before we can be put back together, right? Thompson quietly gathered his papers. Harrison closed his briefcase. Mrs. Hayes, Harrison said softly, when you're ready, we'll need to discuss trust management. There are decisions to be made about the estate. I nodded, still holding David. But not today, Harrison said. Today, go home. David pulled back. Mom, please come home. Please. It's your house. It's always been your house. I touched his face. Not yet. Why? Because I need to know you're choosing me, not inheritance. I need to know you'd want your mother even if there was no money, even if there was just me. There is just you, David said. Money doesn't matter, I swear. Then prove it, I said. Go home, take care of the house, think about who you want to be. And when you're ready, really ready, call me. Thompson handed me a card. Mrs. Hayes, if you need anything, anything at all. I took it, nodded. David walked me to the elevator. We stood there, mother and son, The way we started, just us. I love you, Mom, he said. I love you too, baby. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. Watched David's face as the doors closed. He looked lost, but awake. Finally awake. As we left the office, David asked, "What happens now?" I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I realized Robert's test wasn't about money. It was about this moment. Part 10. A. Paying the price. Moral dialogue. Word count, 873. 2 weeks passed. I stayed at the Mariners Inn. David called every day, asked if I needed anything, if I was okay, if I'd come home. I said I was fine, that I needed time. He didn't push. That was new. The old David would have pushed. Then Thompson called. "Mrs. Hayes, we've received a letter from Jessica's attorney." I was sitting by the window, watching ships. What does it say? She's demanding division of marital assets, claims she's entitled to a portion of the inheritance as David's spouse. Is she? No. The estate structure prevents that. But she can make this expensive, drawn out, ugly. What do you recommend? Thompson was quiet for a moment. Settle. Offer her $500,000. She goes away. Signs a release. You and David move forward. $500,000 to reward her for fraud? To end this cleanly. I watched a cargo ship move through the harbor. Slow, steady, not rushing. No, I said. Mrs. Hayes. Robert didn't build $81 million by being convenient. He built it by being right. Thompson sighed. I understand. But practically speaking, Mr. Thompson, consequence is the only teacher some people respect. If I pay her to go away, what does she learn? That manipulation works. That if you scream loud enough, someone will pay you to stop. Silence on the line. Jessica made her choices, I said. Now she lives with them. Understood, Thompson said. We'll proceed with the fraud case. The DA is interested. The bank wants prosecution. I hung up. Sat there. Thinking about Robert's words. Consequence is the only teacher some people respect. He was right. That evening, David came to the hotel. I met him in the small lobby. He looked thinner. Tired. Mom, can we talk? We sat in 2 chairs by the window. Same view I'd been staring at for 2 weeks. Jessica's lawyer contacted me, he said. She wants me to fight the will, to challenge Dad's estate structure. Are you going to? No, he said it fast, firm. Mom, I filed for divorce. I looked at my son. How do you feel? I asked. Free, he took a breath. And stupid. How did I not see? Love makes us blind, I said, but grief can make us see. David rubbed his face. I've been going through Dad's things, found his journals, from when I was a kid, from before, from always. And? He wrote about you, pages and pages, about how you never complained, how you made our house a home on almost nothing, how you were the strongest person he'd ever met, and he spent his whole life trying to be worthy of you. My throat tightened. There's an entry from when I was 7, David said. I stood up to a bully for another kid at school, came home with a black eye and a smile. Dad wrote, "That's my son. I need to make sure he stays that boy." David's eyes filled. I forgot how to be that boy, Mom. Somewhere along the way, I forgot. You're remembering now, I said. We sat quiet, just the sound of people checking in, checking out, lives intersecting briefly then moving on. Jessica called me, David said. Asked me to help her, to talk to you, to get you to settle. What did you say? I told her no. I told her she did this to herself, that I wasn't going to help her escape consequences. How did she respond? She hung up on me. I almost smiled. Almost. David leaned forward. Mom, I need to tell you something. When Dad died, I thought I was inheriting security, money, status. But all I really inherited was a chance. A chance to be who he raised me to be. And I almost threw it away. You didn't throw it away, I said. You just took a detour. A detour that hurt you. Yes. I'm sorry. I know you are. David reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, handed it to me. I opened it. A check. Made out to Street Catherine's Women's Shelter. $500,000. David's signature at the bottom. What's this? I asked. Half of what I have in my savings. The money I made before Dad died. My money. Not inheritance. Mine. And I want to give it away. David. Dad's letter said if I choose you, I get everything. But I don't want everything. I want to be someone you're proud of. Someone who helps people instead of using them. I looked at the check. At my son's face. Your father would be proud, I said. Are you? I folded the check. Handed it back. Yes, but don't give this to me. Go give it to them yourself. Look them in the eye. See who you're helping. That's what Robert would want. David took the check, nodded. We stood. He hugged me. Quick, tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too. He left. And I realized something. Robert's test wasn't just for David. It was for me too. To see if I could choose forgiveness over anger, teaching over punishment, my son's future over my own pain. As David left, he turned. Dad would be proud of you. I smiled. No, honey. He'd say I'm finally learning. Part 10. B. Closing action. Justice restored. Word count, 1,016. 3 weeks later, Thompson called again. Mrs. Hayes, Jessica's fraud case went to court. I was walking along the harbor. Morning air, salt smell, ships in the distance. And? She pled guilty. Part of a deal with the DA. She has to repay the $340,000 to the bank. 3 years probation, community service, and a permanent restraining order. She can't contact you or David. I stopped walking, watched a seagull land on a piling. How long does she have to repay? 2 years, or face jail time. Where's she getting that kind of money? Her family, apparently. They're not happy. I thought about that. Her family bailing her out, teaching her nothing except that someone will always rescue her from her own choices. But that wasn't my problem anymore. What about the divorce? I asked. Finalized yesterday. Jessica gets nothing from David's inheritance, minimal from their shared accounts. She signed the papers. Is David okay? He's better than okay, Mrs. Hayes. He's free. That word again. Free. I thanked Thompson, hung up, kept walking. 4 days later, I met with Thompson and Harrison in the office. Same room, same harbor view. Mrs. Hayes, Harrison said, we need to discuss estate distribution. You now have sole control of the trust. $81 million. Minus the house, which legally belongs to David per the original will. What would you like to do? I'd been thinking about this for weeks. Since the meeting, since Robert's letter, since watching David kneel beside my chair and finally see himself. I want to establish a foundation, I said. Thompson opened his notebook. What kind? For widows. Women who lose their husbands and their security at the same time. Women who get pushed out by family who see them as obstacles instead of people. Harrison nodded slowly. Admirable. What would the foundation provide? Housing assistance, legal aid when families try to take advantage, counseling, job training, whatever they need to stand on their own. What capital are you thinking? 40 million. Thompson looked up. That's half the estate. I don't need $81 million. I said, I need purpose. And there are women out there right now sitting in hotel rooms wondering if they matter, if anyone sees them, if they'll survive this. I thought about that first night, standing in the rain, suitcase in hand, wondering if I'd just lost everything. I see them, I said, because I was them. Harrison wrote notes. And the remaining 41 million? 20 million goes to David, but not now, when he's 40, when he's had time to build something of his own first, to know who he is without his father's money defining him. Thompson smiled slightly. And the rest? The rest stays in trust, for David's children, if he has them, for their education, their futures, but structured the same way Robert did it, with conditions, with tests, so they learn what matters. You're teaching them before they're even born, Harrison said. I'm teaching them what Robert taught me, that wealth without character is just numbers, that real inheritance is knowing how to stand up after you fall. We spent 2 hours on paperwork, signatures, structures, legal language that would outlive all of us. When we finished, Thompson walked me to the elevator. "Mrs. Hayes, your husband would be very proud. He'd say I finally understand the contract," I said. "The contract?" "The house isn't just wood and walls, it's what you build inside it, who you become there, what you teach. That was always the contract." Thompson shook my hand. "You're a remarkable woman." "No," I said, "just one who finally stopped being invisible." That evening, David called. "Mom," Mr. Thompson told me, "about the foundation, about the money, about everything." "Are you upset?" I asked. "Upset? Mom, I'm grateful. You're giving me time to become someone before giving me money. That's the greatest gift." "Your father's gift, not mine." "No, yours. Dad built the structure. You're teaching me how to live in it." I heard something in his voice. Lightness, maybe hope. "David, I'm coming home." Silence. Then, "Really?" "Tomorrow, if that's okay." "Mom, this is your home. It's always been your home. I've just been taking care of it." The next morning, I checked out of the Mariners Inn. The clerk who'd checked me in 6 weeks ago smiled. "Heading home?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "finally." I drove to 447 Oleander Drive, our house, the blue house Robert and I bought 40 years ago when we had nothing but each other and a dream. David was on the porch, waiting. The yard was perfect, trimmed, the roses blooming, yellow roses, Robert's favorite. I got out of the car, stood there looking at the house, at my son. David came down the steps. "Welcome home, Mom." We walked inside together. The house smelled like lemons, clean, cared for. The pictures were straight, the floors swept, my kitchen gleamed. "You've been busy," I said. "I wanted it to be ready, for when you came back." I touched the counter. The same counter where I'd folded kitchen towels while Jessica screamed at me. The same counter where I'd made 40 years of meals. Where I'd taught David to crack eggs and measure flour and understand that a home is built one small act at a time. "It's perfect," I said. That night, we sat at the kitchen table. Same table, 2 cups of coffee between us. "Mom," David said, "what are you going to do now?" "Run the foundation, help women. Live." "In this big house all alone?" I smiled. "David, I've decided, this house won't be just mine." "What do you mean?" "Your father always said this house was built for family. But family is bigger than blood. The foundation will use part of it. Temporary housing for women transitioning. They'll stay here. Heal here. Get strong here." David's eyes filled. "Dad would love that." "I know." We sat quiet, mother and son, in the house that tested us, changed us, taught us. "Mom?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up on me." "Never," I said, "not ever." That night, I slept in my own bed. In the blue room Robert and I painted 40 years ago, and for the first time since he died, I dreamed of the future, not the past. That night, I slept in my own bed, and for the first time since Robert died, I dreamed of the future, not the past. Part 11. A. Time passes, fateful call. Word count, 372. 3 months passed. The Robert Hayes Legacy Fund for Widows opened in a small office near the harbor. Same view Robert had from his ships, same salt air. I was there every day, director, founder, sometimes just the person who made coffee and listened. Our first client was a woman named Carol, 58 years old. Husband died of a heart attack. Her son and daughter-in-law wanted to sell her house and move her to a facility. I sat with her, made tea, let her cry. "You're not invisible," I told her. "Not here." She looked at me like I'd given her oxygen. We helped her, legal aid, housing counseling. Within 2 months, she was still in her home. Her children backed off. She started volunteering at the foundation, teaching what she'd learned by living it. David came by the office every week, brought lunch, talked about work, about therapy, about the man he was becoming. He started volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club downtown, teaching kids about engineering, about building things with their hands. Just like Dad taught me, he said. One afternoon, he brought someone to meet me. Mom, this is Sarah, she's a teacher. Sarah, 35, kind eyes, simple dress, no expensive jewelry, no measuring looks. She shook my hand. Mrs. Hayes, David talks about you constantly. Only good things, I hope. He says you taught him what strength looks like. I looked at my son. He was smiling, really smiling. The way he used to before Jessica, before fear and greed got tangled up in his life. Stay for dinner? I asked. They did. We ate at the kitchen table, talked about teaching, about kids, about building futures instead of counting assets. Sarah had nothing, but she made David laugh, made him want to be better. That was everything. After they left, I washed dishes, same sink, same routine, but different now, lighter. My phone rang around 8. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Hello? Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 3 months. Shaking, small. Margaret, it's Jessica. I should have hung up. Every part of me said to. But I heard something in her voice I'd never heard before. Brokenness, real brokenness. I should have hung up. Every part of me said to. But I heard something in her voice I'd never heard before. Brokenness, real brokenness. Part 11b. Confession and Forgiveness. Word count, 1034. Jessica, I said, just her name, nothing else. Thank you for answering. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. Silence. I heard her breathing, unsteady. I need to talk to you, she said. Face to face. I know I have no right to ask, but please. Every instinct said no. Every memory of that night, standing in the rain, door slamming, her voice calling me useless, said hang up. But Robert's voice was there too. I believe in second chances. Where? I asked. Anywhere you want. I'll come to you. Coffee shop on Harbor Street. Tomorrow, 10 in the morning. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you. She hung up before I could change my mind. I stood there, phone in my hand, wondering if I'd just made a mistake. The next morning, I got to the coffee shop early, ordered tea, sat by the window. Jessica arrived at exactly 10. I almost didn't recognize her. No perfect makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, jeans, plain sweater, no jewelry. Her nails were bare, bitten. She looked like someone who'd stopped pretending. She sat down across from me. Thank you for coming. I said nothing, just waited. Jessica wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. They were shaking. I'm in therapy, she said. Court-ordered at first. But now I go because I want to, because I need to. I listened. My therapist asked me why I did it, why I treated you that way, why I pushed so hard for the house, for control, for everything. She looked at her coffee, not at me. I said it was about money. She said that was just a symptom. Jessica took a breath. It came out shaky. My mom died when I was 12. Cancer. My dad remarried 6 months later. To a woman who made it very clear I was in the way, that I was temporary. That nothing I did mattered because I wasn't really hers. I saw tears on her face now. I spent my entire life terrified of being disposable, of being the thing people get rid of when something better comes along. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. When I met David, he had this big house, this father who built ships and empires, this family that seemed solid and permanent. And I thought if I could lock that down, if I could control it, I'd finally be safe. But the more I grabbed, she whispered, the more I lost. I set my tea down, looked at this woman who'd screamed at me, who'd planned to erase me, who'd tried to steal my home. And I saw something I hadn't seen before, a scared girl who never learned she was enough. That night I screamed at you, Jessica said. I saw my stepmother, I saw every person who made me feel small, and I became them. Her voice broke. Margaret, I can't fix what I did. The court says I can't even contact David. I've lost everything, but I needed you to know I'm sorry. Not because I lost the money, not because I got caught, but because I hurt someone who never hurt me, someone who only ever tried to welcome me into her family. I watched her cry, real crying, The kind that comes from somewhere deep. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because my therapist said if I want to heal, I have to face what I've done, not explain it away, not justify it, face it. She looked at me, finally looked at me. You didn't deserve any of it. You were grieving your husband, and I made it about money and fear and my own brokenness. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. She shook her head. I don't deserve anything from you. I just needed to say it to your face, to apologize, to let you know I see what I did. And I'm sorry. I sat there, looked at this woman across from me. Thought about Robert's letter. I believe in second chances. Thought about myself at 25, scared, trying too hard, making mistakes. Thought about David kneeling beside my chair, broken but learning. Thought about consequence and punishment, about justice and mercy, about the difference between earning forgiveness and needing it. Jessica, I said, what you did was cruel. It hurt. She nodded, didn't look away. But I also know what fear does. I know what it's like to feel invisible, to feel like you don't matter. I took a breath. I forgive you. Her eyes went wide. What? I forgive you, not because you've earned it, but because carrying anger poisoned me more than it ever hurt you. Jessica's face crumpled. I don't understand. How can you? Because consequence taught you. You lost everything. You're still paying for what you did. You'll pay for years, but you learned. That's what Robert believed in, not punishment. Learning. Growing from what breaks us. I reached across the table, put my hand on hers. I forgive you, Jessica. Let it go. Build a new life. Be better. She cried. Hard. The kind of crying that's half grief, half relief. We sat there. Two women, both broken by loss, both learning how to stand again. After a while, Jessica wiped her face. Margaret, is there any chance David and I could ever? No, I said, gentle but firm. That door is closed. He's moved on. You need to as well. She nodded, understanding. But your life isn't over, I said. You're what, 34? 35 now. You're 35. You have decades ahead of you. Don't waste them looking backward. Look forward. Find out who you are, without fear driving you. Jessica stood to leave. Thank you, Margaret, for this, for listening, for her voice caught, for seeing me even when I didn't deserve it. Everyone deserves to be seen, I said. You just have to learn to see yourself first. She left. I sat there, finished my tea, watched the harbor through the window, and I felt lighter. Not because Jessica deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter. Not because Jessica deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Part 11. C. Rebirth and Inner Peace. Word count, 450. I drove to 447 Oleander Drive. Home. David's car was in the driveway, Sarah's too. I found them in the backyard. David was showing Sarah the rose garden, Robert's roses, the ones he planted 30 years ago, yellow blooms everywhere. Mom, David came over. We weren't expecting you until later. I had coffee with Jessica, I said. David's face changed, worried. Are you okay? I'm fine, better than fine. Sarah stood back, giving us space, but I waved her over. You should hear this too. You're part of this family now. She smiled, came and stood beside David. Jessica apologized, I said, really apologized, and I forgave her. David looked at me like I'd spoken another language. You what? I forgave her. Mom, after everything Yes, after everything, because holding on to anger was hurting me, not her, and because your father taught me something. What? That consequence is the teacher, not punishment. She lost everything. Learned her lesson. Now she has to build a new life. That's enough. David was quiet. Then he hugged me. Tight. You're the strongest person I know, he said. No, just the most tired of carrying weight that isn't mine. We stood in the garden, the three of us. Sun warm on our faces, roses blooming, the smell of salt from the harbor mixing with flower sweetness. David, I said, I've been thinking. This house has 6 bedrooms. I only use 1. The foundation needs space. Women need somewhere safe while they rebuild. You want to turn the house into a home, like it's always been, just for more people. Sarah spoke up. That's beautiful, Mrs. Hayes. Call me Margaret. And yes, your father always said this house was built for family. Well, family is bigger than blood. David looked at the house. The blue house. The one Robert and I painted 40 years ago with dreams and hope and very little money. Dad would love that, he said. I know he would. That evening, I stood in the kitchen, made coffee, the way I had for 40 years, but different now. The weight gone, the fear gone, the anger gone. Just me, 62 years old, widow, mother, founder, woman who learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about standing back up and choosing what to carry forward. I took my coffee to the porch, sat in Robert's chair, the one he sat in every evening watching the sun set. The sky turned orange, pink, purple, beautiful. I thought about Robert, about David, about Jessica and Carol and all the women who'd walk through these doors looking for a second chance. And I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was finally free. Free from anger, from bitterness, from the need to prove anything. Just free. That night, I slept deeply, and I dreamed of Robert. Not sad dreams, good ones, him young and strong, building ships, building our life, building me into someone who could stand in a storm and not break. Thank you, I whispered to the dark, for teaching me that dignity isn't lost when people take from you. It's only lost when you become what they are. The house was quiet, peaceful, ready for new stories, new beginnings. Home? That night, I slept deeply, and I dreamed of Robert, not sad dreams, but good ones, him building ships, building our life, building me into someone who could stand in a storm and not break. Part 12. CTA closing. Word count, 56. They say justice is blind, but I learned it's not. Justice sees everything, especially what we choose when no one's watching. If you've ever been invisible or found your strength in silence, I hope this story reminds you. Your worth isn't in what people take from you. It's in what you choose to do when you take it back. Thanks for listening. If you found meaning in my story, I invite you to share it.